Any of you folks?
At first, all of us were smiling, happy, and then we all started to think about it, and we were happy for her because she was happy, and we were just curious and happy for her, basically. Surprised.
You were surprised?
Yes.
Could you tell if the others were surprised as well?
Yes.
And how could you tell that?
Jaws dropped, eyes were open, there was silence for a couple of minutes, and then we all got into asking her questions and being happy for her.
Did you have an opportunity or a chance to observe your mother, Kim, after Charlie shared this news?
Yes.
And
relevance?
Here it is. This goes to the main foundation of our present sense impression.
The objection is overruled.
Okay, you can answer that. Did you have a chance to observe your mom?
Yes.
And can you please tell us what did you observe with respect to your mom?
She was stunned. She was sitting there.
I'm going to object. Relevance.
The objection is overruled.
Okay, you can answer this question. It's fine.
Okay. She was stunned and she was sitting there at first, and like the rest of us, we were all silent. And then she hugged my sister and smiled, and Charlie smiled, and they just held each other for a minute, and then were able to talk about it. And seeing how happy Charlie was making all of us happy, and my mother especially. She was very happy for her.
Now, with that observation in mind, at this time, I'm going to ask you, what is the news that Charlie shared?
She was pregnant.
It's hearsay.
You know, this is a present sense impression at this point.
The objection is overruled.
What news did Charlie Scott share with you folks?
Your Honor, why would it be a present sense impression back at that time?
Because it is back at that time.
Oh. It's still hearsay.
It's an exception to the...
And the foundation that it was being offered for is a foundation for hearsay.
You know, I think that you're smart in what you say. I'm just wondering. It's a practical matter. We could devote some time to this. Is this... I'll have you folks approach.
Folks that evening?
That she was pregnant.
And while you folks were hugging her, did you say people or someone was asking her questions?
Objection leading?
Yeah, I'm clarifying this. Okay. What was happening while people in that gathering were hugging her?
We had finished hugging her, and then we began asking some questions, like,
Okay, without telling us what the questions were. Okay, so questions are being asked.
yes.
At some point, did you, if at all, try to communicate or contact anyone?
Yes.
And who was that?
Stephen Capobianco.
And can you tell us why is it that you tried to contact the defendant?
I was curious as to whether or not he knew if he had impregnated Charlie.
And so what did you do?
I texted him asking if he was aware of the fact, and
And did you get a response from the defendant?
yes, I did.
Okay, first of all, how is it that you're able to text him?
Via my Bluetooth phone, we had the same numbers, or my sister Charlie and Stephen had shared plans, so they had the same numbers for a while.
And did you get a response when you texted the defendant?
Yes.
And what was that response?
So check hearsay and best evidence.
You know, this goes to the defendant's own statement.
Foundation, how do we know it was from him?
I'll sustain the objection. Okay.
Okay, how did you know that that was the defendant's phone number he texted?
It was in my phone book under Stephen Capobianco.
Had you ever used that phone number before
Yes.
to contact the defendant?
Yes.
Had you ever successfully contacted the defendant with that phone number?
Yes.
Had he ever responded to you with that phone number?
Yes.
And you said it was in your phone?
Yes.
What do you mean when you say that?
It was a contact in my phone book.
So your
It was
phone,
saved in my phone.
Yeah, your phone has an address book, or
Mhm.
and how long have you had this number?
Probably since 2010 when I moved here.
Now, did you get a response from the defendant?
Yes.
And what was that response?
Same objections.
Foundation's been laid, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled.
Okay, please tell us what was that response from the defendant?
First there was a text message, and
And what did that text message say?
it had said I thought she had taken care of it, and subsequently I didn't respond to that text message, and later on I got a phone call.
Okay. When you say subsequently you didn't respond to the text message when you said I thought she'd taken care of it, why didn't you respond to that?
Because it was obvious that Charlie hadn't taken care of it and that she wanted to keep it, and I had no response to that.
And what were you doing in the meantime after that text message?
We were sitting in the living room, hanging out together, still kind of in shock over it and moving along through the emotions of shock and happiness for Charlie.
Okay, so when you say shock of it, are you talking about the news or the defendant's text message?
I'm talking about the news.
Object us to meeting.
Judge, just his clarification is fine.
The objection is overruled.
Thank you. About the news.
About the news.
So you mentioned just now that you got a call from the defendant.
Yes.
Was it from the same phone number?
Yes.
Did you recognize the voice?
Yes.
And when he called you, can you tell us what he told you?
He had called and asked how I knew, and I told him that Charlie had told me directly, and then he went on to state that he had thought Charlie had agreed to take care of it, and I had gone on to tell him that she had chosen to obviously keep the child and that she wanted to be a mother. And from there on, it was a one-sided conversation. He was kind of nervous or panicked sounding. He didn't believe it, and it sounded like he didn't believe it, and that plans had changed when he originally thought they were going to go through. And
Go through with what?
with an abortion. And so I guess he was just having an array of emotional feelings on the phone.
Could you describe, well, you said he sounded panicked. What made you think that?
He sounded short of breath and rushed as he was speaking, and he had said that it consequently would ruin plans he had with a current girlfriend, and that it wasn't what was supposed to be happening, and that he needed to talk to Charlie. And I don't believe he was able to get a hold of Charlie that night.
Did you have any further contact with the defendant that night?
That night, no.
Now, turning your attention to May of the same year, 2014, did you yourself, if you did, try to make contact with the defendant?
Yes.
And approximately when was this in that month of May?
It was approximately around May 14th.
And why is it that you're able to know or remember that date?
It's my birthday.
And were you able to contact the defendant?
Yes.
Again, which phone number did you use?
The same one.
And you did make contact with him?
Yes.
And what was the purpose for trying to contact him, Ms. Weiss?
We had just found out that the case was moving from a missing persons case to a homicide case. And I just wanted to clarify and ask him a few questions on my own of what his theory was or what could have happened that night from his point of view, since he was the last one with her.
And were you able to ask him those questions?
Yes.
You said to ask him what his theory was, is that
Yes.
correct? Did you ask him that question?
Yes.
And when you asked him that, what was, if any, what was the defendant's response to you?
The defendant's response was, I'm not sure, but I have a hypothesis that Charlie could have picked up a hitchhiker. And to me, that just didn't make any sense.
And why did that make any sense to you?
It didn't make sense to me because the story that I had heard repeatedly was that he was driving in front of Charlie to make sure that his vehicle didn't break down again. And to me, it didn't make sense because if he was driving in front of her and was able to see her headlights, they were approximately pretty close. And if there was a hitchhiker on the side of the road, then he would have seen the person and at least been able to give a description of said hitchhiker.
Well, then his hypothesis, did he tell you he saw a hitchhiker?
Mm-mm. No.
Now, I want to move you back in a couple months earlier. Turning your attention to Tuesday, February 11th, did you, or do you recall, if you did, meet up with a person by the name of Adam Jones?
Yes.
Object as to leading.
The objection is sustained.
Move to strike the answer.
The motion is strike.
On that date, what, if any, person did you meet up with?
On what date? There hasn't been any testimony about a date. Counsel testified to it.
Judge, I'll say the date.
Proceed.
Okay, thank you. On Tuesday, February 11th, 2014, what, if any, person did you meet up with?
I had come home from work to meet up with Adam Gaines and Johnny Pipkin and my mother, Kimberly Scott.
Okay, and when you met up with them, what, if there were any plans?
They had discovered that people had found Charlie's dog, Nala.
Okay,
without hearsay, move to strike.
The objection is sustained.
Without telling,
Excuse me, the motion to strike is granted.
okay, without saying what people would have said or what they would have heard, were plans made, if any, with you and Adam Gaines?
We had planned to go pick up Nala from Nahiku.
And from where?
Nahiku.
And who was going to drive?
Adam. Adam and I.
And was approximately what time was this, if you're able to remember?
I had work that night, so I got home approximately about 11:15. So we must have left around 11:30 and had gotten out to Nahiku Marketplace by just after 12 midnight and had picked up Nala just around then.
Okay. And when you said you pick up Nala, who is Nala?
Nala is Charlie's dog, American Staffordshire Terrier.
Okay, American.
Staffordshire Terrier, aka Pitbull.
When you and Adam went all the way out to, was it Nahiku Marketplace, you said?
Yes.
Okay. When you folks went out to Nahiku Marketplace, was there anyone else there besides Nala?
The gentleman who had been keeping Nala in Nahiku.
Okay, and who's this
I'm going to
person?
object as to lack of foundation.
The objection is sustained.
Move to strike the answer.
Motion to strike is granted.
Okay, my question to you, and listen closely, was there somebody else there besides Nala?
Yes.
And who is this person? Without telling us anything of what you may have heard or what he may have done.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. The name would be hearsay.
You know, if he identified himself to her, it's not hearsay.
It would be hearsay.
The objection is overruled.
You can tell us the name of the person if you know it.
I actually do not.
Your Honor, that's being offered for the truth of the matter asserted.
Witness identification does not know the name.
I'm sorry?
Let's proceed.
You said you don't know the name.
I don't recall the name.
Was it a male or female?
It was a male.
Now, did you have a chance to physically observe Nala that night?
Yes.
And how was that done?
I had just done a run through to make sure that she wasn't injured in any way. Checked her pads, the pads of her feet, and checked her teeth. Make sure she wasn't jacked up.
When you say jacked up, what do you mean by that?
I mean, like injured, like she hadn't gotten in a fight with another animal and lost teeth or was bleeding or anything like that.
Okay, now Ms. Weiss, when you said you checked the paws of her feet, what, if anything, did you notice about that?
The pads and nails of her feet were actually completely fine. The pads of her feet weren't muddy or dirty, and her nails had almost no dirt underneath them.
Okay. And when you checked her, you said you checked her mouth next?
Yes.
Okay, what, if anything, did you notice about her mouth?
Her mouth was clean. There was no signs of any fighting with other dogs or any altercations whatsoever while she had been lost.
And how long have you known Nala?
So actually, before you check that question, I'll object lack of foundation.
Not as to the portion about the mouth being clean, but as to
No signs of fighting with other dog seems to be
also saying the objection to
Move to
that
strike that
and
part.
strike that portion of the response.
Okay.
And you may lay a foundation.
Right. When you say that you wanted to check for signs of fighting with other dogs, what experience, if any, do you have with respect to being able to check for signs of fighting with other dogs?
We have multiple dogs that we own on our property, and
And what
once
kind of
we-
dogs are these?
These are all excluding two American Staffordshire Terriers. And two
AK
others.
pit bulls?
Pit bulls, yes.
Okay. And how many dogs are these?
There was 3 staying with us at the time.
And so when you say you wanted to check for signs of fighting, what experience do you have with respect to that?
Our dogs would occasionally fight over things here and there, and we would have to tend to their wounds on one another. Never anything too serious, but we would have teeth issues, jaw issues.
Okay, when you say
puncture
teeth
wounds,
issues, what do you mean by teeth issues?
losing teeth after locking on and shaking and ripping them out, basically.
Okay, and you say jaw issues?
Jaw
Okay,
issues,
what do
like
you mean by jaw issues?
puncture wounds from the other dog's bite marks, other signs of bite marks and wounds.
Okay. So based on that, when you said you tried to look for signs of fighting with other dogs with respect to Nala, did you see any of these signs?
Objection, lack of foundation?
Judge, foundation's been
The
laid.
objection is overruled.
Your Honor, may I voir dire on that?
You may.
Okay, do you prefer to be called Fiona or Miss Weiss?
Either is fine. Fiona works just well.
Okay. Is it your testimony that, well, whose dogs are we talking about that you observed fighting?
A mix between Charlie's dogs, my younger sister's dog, and my mother's dogs.
When you say a mix, are you saying that they fought each other amongst all of them, or that you've seen all of them engaged in fights separately?
Engaged in fights separately.
Now, have you had any training as far as, for example, veterinarian training?
No, sir.
You mentioned, well, you know, I have no further questions. I'll just handle my objection in lack of foundation.
The objection is overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Question to the witness at the time of the objection was, so based on that, when you said you tried to look for signs of fighting with other dogs with respect to Nala, did you see any of these signs? You may answer that question.
I did not see any of those signs.
Now, did you have a chance to observe, in general, the fur or Nala's fur?
Yes.
And what, if anything, did you observe?
I observed that she, other than a little bit of dirt here and there, dust from wherever she had been, she was relatively clean and well kept.
Now, you said you have, at that time, you had at least 3 pit bulls with
Yes.
you folks? Okay. Do you have any experience with respect to your pit bulls and whatever other dogs you had on your property, as to whether or not they would show signs of any type of signs, whether it's fatigue or whatever, if they had traveled a distance of over 5 miles?
Yes.
And what is your experience?
When we take our dogs on long walks, we go on runs. Afterwards, we check their paws. We would see and make sure that their paws are all right. Sometimes if we had taken them for too long of a walk or they were walking on any rough terrain, we'd notice that their pads were chipped, cut, or chapped, and their nails would be cracked or very dirty.
Okay. And I think you testified about Nala's paws and nails. Did you notice any of that?
No, I did not.
Can I approach?
You may do so.
Thank you. Ms. Weiss, I'm showing you what has been marked for identification as State's Exhibit 73. I'm going to ask you to please take a look at it. Okay, do you recognize what is shown in the State's Exhibit 23 marked for identification?
Yes, it's Nala the night we had picked her up from the marketplace.
Now,
Did you say 73 or 23?
73. I'm not sure if I said 23. It's State's Exhibit 73.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I observed Nala in the back of the truck of the gentleman that we picked her up from in Nahiku Marketplace.
Okay, so in the picture of State's Exhibit 73 marked for identification, is that the back of the truck from the person you guys picked up Nala from?
Yes.
Objection, lady?
Yeah, I'm just clarifying that. Good Mary question.
I'll sustain the objection.
Move to strike that.
Motion to strike right.
Well, what is that picture of?
It's of Nala in the back of the truck that the gentleman who had been keeping her owned.
And I'm gonna.
Okay, without telling us the last part, is this the?
Yeah, may I move to object and move to strike the last part?
That's fine, Judge.
The objection is sustained and the motion to strike is granted. To answer that portion, in response to the last portion.
Okay, is that how Nala appeared when you picked her up?
Yes.
Yeah, this time the state will move into evidence State's Exhibit 73, which has been marked for identification.
Mr. Upwood.
If it's being offered relative to Fiona's observation of the dog on that day, February 11th, no objection.
It's also being offered as the dog in the truck that she observed him in when she picked him up.
As of February 11th, that's fine, no objection.
State's Exhibit number 73, marked for identification purposes, is received in evidence.
Now, Ms. Weiss, I just referred to Nala as a he. Is that a he or
Nala's
she?
a female.
A female, okay, so just want to correct the record there. Let me go back even further and turn your attention to February 9th. This is a Sunday of 2014. Did you, if you did, have a chance to see Charlie that day?
Yes, I did.
And where did this occur?
It occurred at her workplace, the Hui Noeau on Baldwin Avenue.
Okay, and can you say that word one more time? Because the court reporter is going to take it down, and just say it slowly.
I saw her at the Hui Noeau up on Baldwin Avenue.
And what is the Hui? Did you call it? Do you refer to it as Hui for short?
Yes.
Okay, and what is this Hui?
The Hui is a nonprofit visual arts center.
And you said, other than Baldwin Avenue, where is it located?
Just outside of Mockwell.
And you said it's a visual arts center?
Yes.
Can you explain what that is?
Visual arts. It has exhibitions such as displaying art, paintings, sculptures, wood carving, jewelry, anything that you can visually see as art, not including music.
And you said this is a nonprofit agency?
Yes.
Now, what if any relationship did Charlie have, if you know, with respect to the Hui?
She was working there, I think, as the front desk assistant.
And what relationship, if any, Do you know if,
So I'll actually object as lack of foundation on that.
The objection is sustained.
Move to strike.
Motion to strike is granted. You may lay foundation.
Thank you, Your Honor. With respect to the Hui, how are you able to tell us what, if any, relation did Charlie Scott have with that agency or establishment?
She worked for them.
Okay, how are you able to tell us she worked with them?
She managed the exhibits. She put
What-
up displays.
Okay, did you yourself see this when you're saying this?
Yes.
Okay, what have you seen her do?
I've seen her move artwork and place artwork in certain locations and fix lighting, such.
Okay, so have you seen her working there?
Yes.
Now, back on February 9th, 2014, you said, you testified earlier that you saw her there.
Yes.
Okay, what, if anything, was going on that day at the Hui?
A larger art exhibit was occurring that Charlie partook in making and putting together that she was very proud of.
Okay, that she was what?
She was very proud of.
Were you the only family member there?
No.
Who else was there?
My mother, Kimberlyn Scott, my younger sister, Phaedra, and my older sister, Brooke.
Is there a reason, if you know, why those members of the family were there?
We had gathered there that day to see the work that Charlie had put into the exhibit and also partially celebrate Brooke's birthday.
Do you recall how Charlie was dressed at the Hui that day?
Yes, I do.
And how was that?
She was wearing her ice cream dress. It's white with multicolored ice cream and cones, and she had a belt on, regular slippers on, and her hair was down and curled.
And could you describe, if you're able to, the mood of your family that day at the Hui?
Jovial. We were having fun and enjoying each other's company and just excited to be able to see the work Charlie had put into something and celebrate Brooke's birthday.
Ms. Weiss, when was the last time you saw Charlie Scott?
The last time I saw Charlie Scott was on my way out of the exhibit. I had to leave for work, and she had been leaving as well to go feed and tend to her dogs that she had to leave at home.
I object to that part as lack of foundation and or hearsay.
The last portion of the response, the court will sustain the objection and strike that portion of the response.
Okay, I'm not sure if you understood that, but without telling us what Charlie was going to do or had planned to do, can you please describe the last time you saw her?
Objection asked and answered.
You know, it was cut off by counsel.
The objection is overruled. You may answer the question.
Please tell us.
I had seen her as I was leaving for work in her vehicle. We were just saying our goodbyes. I was kind of upset because I had to leave and miss out on the rest of the day with everyone because I was having a good time. And as I was saying goodbye, I was just gonna walk away, and then she called me over, and I walked over, and she was like, "I love you," and I told her I loved her too, and we gave each other a hug. And that was the last time I saw Charlie.
I have no further questions.
Cross-examination.
May we approach?
Yes. All right, we'll take our 10-minute recess at this time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.